Welcome to The Bloom. You came here for a reason, and you're about to discover something incredibly spectacular. Have you ever felt that the struggles you encounter are unlike anything else? As if the weight of the world is on your shoulders and no one fully knows what you're going through? Take a deep breath, because today we're going to dive into the 7 most difficult spiritual exams that only those selected by God can overcome. Before we begin this tremendous trip, I want to thank you for your ongoing support. If you were impacted by the message today, remember to leave a remark with 77, a representation of heavenly fulfillment and breakthrough, and a warm thanks to everyone who has given via Super. Thanks. Help us continue to spread these life-changing facts throughout the world. As we move on with this issue, consider if the challenges you experienced were hurdles or stepping stones to your divine destiny. Let's look at these 7 significant spiritual difficulties and how they influence your particular calling in God's plan. Are you ready to discover your inner strength? Let me begin. God's chosen ones. These are the 7 most difficult spiritual challenges that only you must face. We commonly hear the term chosen ones. It nearly seems like a myth, something from a fairy tale or an old folklore. But what if I told you that being one of the chosen ones is not about being born extraordinary, but about being created? These people are shaped by a sequence of trials that most people never even notice. These aren't physical tests. They are invisible to the naked eye and cannot be measured with any equipment. They are spiritual, mental, and emotional exams, with each one more difficult than the last. The chosen ones suffer challenges that most people cannot comprehend, and it is through these hardships that they get transformed. Life is a test, but everyone gets tested differently. The deeper you go into your spiritual path, the more difficult the problems become. The chosen ones are those who, despite the difficulties they confront, gladly enter into these trials, not because they want to, but because they have no other option. There's a deep, unwavering urge that pulls at them, compelling them to go into the flames. It's a power that won't let them go back, regardless of how tough or painful it becomes. This heavenly pull or calling is not glamorous. It is not easy, and it is absolutely not optional. These exams will push you to the brink of your capabilities. You may even doubt everything about yourself, including your identity and religion. At times, you may feel as if you can't take it any longer since the weight is too heavy to bear. But if you persevere and keep pushing ahead, something magical happens. You are eternally altered. The refining process of these tests will leave you stronger, purer, and more connected to your inner purpose than ever before. This concept of being and choosing is not about privilege. It's all about preparedness. It is about going through difficulties that few others understand, but which mold you into the person God created you to be. Consider the narrative of Job in the Bible. He endured unimaginable losses and suffering, yet his faith never faltered. He refers to Job 23:10. But he knows that once he tests me, I shall emerge as gold. Job was tried, honed, and went through his tribulations. He was converted into an illuminating symbol of faith. Have you ever felt a tug in your heart, as if God is asking you to confront something tough that you are unprepared for? The reality is, if you are picked, it is because you are capable of bearing what others cannot. These exams are designed to strengthen you, create resilience, and help you recognize your divine potential. But the issue remains. Are you prepared to confront them? When life throws its most difficult circumstances at you, it may seem impossible to persevere. Remember, these exams are not intended to break you. They are there to shape you into something bigger than you could have imagined. Fire, for example, purifies gold. Your efforts will purify both of you. And at the conclusion of this trip, you will be transformed into someone capable of walking in your entire divine mission while facing your own spiritual test. Always realize that you are not alone. You are a part of something far bigger than yourself. And these hardships are part of your divine plan. Can you withstand? Can you emerge stronger? The solution is in your desire to take the next step, knowing that each test will lead to your metamorphosis. God has called you for a reason, and these obstacles are simply part of His plan to expose your actual power. The first test that every chosen one must undergo is one that goes right to the heart of your existence. It is a test of confronting the reality about who you are. For the majority of our lives, we spend so much effort creating an image of ourselves. We create a mask, an identity which we portray to the world. This mask is frequently determined by the roles we play in our careers, relationships, accomplishments, and belongings. However, when the first spiritual test occurs, it removes all of that. It pushes you to look in the mirror and confront yourself without the external labels and titles that have previously defined you. This is where the exam becomes quite unpleasant. It might feel like peering into the abyss, as if everything you thought you knew about yourself has suddenly crumbled because you've spent so much of your life associating with things outside of yourself, things that are transient and fleeting. But once they're gone, who are you? What is left? When the mask is removed, you are left entirely exposed in front of the mirror. For many people, this is a terrible situation. It is easy to identify ourselves based on what we have or do, our job titles, our successes, or even the people we associate with. However, the ultimate test starts when all of those things are pulled away. When you lose the external indicators of your identity, you are forced to confront who you actually are at your heart. And you may be feeling lost or uncertain right now. Who am I? Without these labels, what identifies me today? The Bible mentions this precise moment numerous times. Consider Moses' tale, in which he had to confront his own identity as an Egyptian ruler. Moses was identified by his position, riches, and rank. But as he escaped into the desert, God summoned him to something larger, something that would test the very core of who he thought he was. In Exodus 3:11, when God summoned Moses from the burning bush, Moses asks, "Who am I? Should I go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt?" He was confronted with the agonizing question of his genuine identity, which had nothing to do with his previous life, status, or accomplishments. You, like Moses, must answer the question, who are you when everything else is gone? Are you ready to face the truth of who you are underneath the mask you wear? Are you prepared to view yourself as God sees you, not the way the world perceives you? This exam involves complete honesty with yourself. It is about knowing that your worth is not determined by your work, assets, or relationships. Your ultimate worth comes from God, from the purpose He has put in your heart and the specific calling He has bestowed upon you. This is where the change begins. When you can stand in your truth, admit and love who you are in God's sight, you begin to walk in your true purpose at this moment of truth. You may feel vulnerable, but remember that vulnerability is where great strength emerges. The chosen ones are not those who have everything figured out, but those who are prepared to peel aside the illusions and stand before God naked and exposed, ready to embrace their divine mission. Can you face who you really are without the mask? Are you prepared to let go of false identities and embrace the truth of your divine calling? These are the questions that start the spiritual journey, and they are difficult to answer. But if you can pass this initial exam, you'll be prepared for the challenges that lie ahead. Because once you know who you are, nothing can shake you. Many folks struggle with the first test. It's too tough to overcome their dread of face the reality about who they are. When the illusions and external labels overwhelm them, they withdraw back into the safety of the identity they've spent years creating, the mask they wear to fit in and feel comfortable. They shy away from the mirror, unwilling to face the rawness of their genuine selves. However, the chosen ones, those meant for something bigger, do not withdraw. They do not flee from the abyss that confronts them. Instead, they stand there uncompromising and unyielding, confronting it front on. In that moment of vulnerability, when the mask is removed and the truth is revealed, they ask themselves the most difficult question: who am I? This is not a question that can be taken lightly. It is not a fleeting notion. This is a profound, burning question that penetrates your own essence, refusing to let go until you have confronted it thoroughly. Have you ever asked yourself that question, not just casually, but in a way that shocks you to your core? When was the last time you stood in front of God, asking, "Who am I in your eyes? What is my real purpose? What identity have you given me?" Many people find the thought of asking this question daunting. The response might be disconcerting because it requires you to confront realities about yourself that you may be unprepared to face. But it is in these uncomfortable moments when the metamorphosis occurs. The chosen ones are not those who have all the answers, but those who are bold enough to ask the difficult questions. Those who are prepared to peel back the layers and reveal the reality, even if it is painful. The Bible provides several accounts of people who endured this precise test. Take, for example, the account of Jacob in Genesis 32:27, who struggled with the angel. The angel asked him, "What is your name?" In that moment, Jacob was forced to confront the truth about himself. Not simply his name, but also his background, identity, and weaknesses. Only after this confrontation did he obtain a new name, Israel, a name that reflected his change. Much like Jacob, you too must confront your inner self before moving on with your divine destiny. You must be willing to look in the mirror of your soul and ask, "Who am I really?" This is the question that distinguishes those who are ready for spiritual growth from those who are not the chosen one, and those who can stare into the abyss of their own identity, face their fears and shortcomings, and declare, "I am ready for the truth. I am prepared to accept who God has called me to be." Can you stand before your soul's mirror and ask this question? Can you confront the truth about yourself, even if it's uncomfortable or unsettling? Your spiritual path genuinely begins when you reflect honestly on yourself. And once you raise the inquiry and sincerely seek an answer, there is no turning back. You will be eternally changed, and you will achieve the grandeur that God has always intended for you. The chosen one must endure the second test, which is seclusion in a world that is continuously filled with noise. Social media updates, emails, phone calls, and frequent discussion among family and friends. It's easy to forget what it's like to be completely alone. To pass this exam, however, you must be prepared to accept seclusion, not only physically, but also intellectually and emotionally. This is the type of isolation that requires you to sit with yourself and address your deepest thoughts, concerns, and desires. In today's environment, distractions are everywhere, and the world is always competing for our attention. Isolation may be quite uncomfortable. However, this is precisely why the exam is important. In the quietness, when everything around you becomes quiet, you'll be compelled to face your actual self. There is no place to escape from your own thoughts, and the distractions you formerly depended on to avoid confronting your own feelings and facts are no longer available. And it is in this silence that the true change occurs. In the quiet, you will begin to hear something else, something that has always existed but has been overshadowed by the commotion of the world. This is your inner voice. It is the voice of your true self, the voice that has been waiting for your attention, the silent, little voice of God inside you. Have you ever paused to ask yourself, "Can I hear it?" Or are you terrified to hear what it could say? Most individuals are fearful of quiet because they are afraid of what they may hear. It's easy to keep filling the hole with noise, whether through social media work or being continuously surrounded by others, since stillness compels us to confront hard realities. However, The chosen ones do not dread quiet. It is something to cherish amid the solitude. You start to hear the truth, which is frequently muffled out by the distractions of daily living. You sense God's voice asking you to fulfill your ultimate mission. Consider the account of Jesus in the desert from Matthew 4:1-2. It then states that Jesus was driven by the Spirit into the desert to be tempted by the devil. After fasting for 40 days and 40 nights, he was starving. Jesus battled his own inner problems and was able to clearly hear God's words in this isolated desert setting. In the quiet, he wasn't alone. What exactly was he being spiritually prepared for? Lay ahead. His holy calling required stillness, just as Jesus did. You must confront your own wilderness. The isolation test is not intended to shatter you, but rather to enable you hear the cry of your inner self. Can you sit by yourself in solitude without distractions? Can you address your innermost ideas, anxieties, and desires? The chosen ones are those who are bold enough to sit in solitude and listen for God's voice calling them to something bigger. In that silence, you will discover the truth. You will get clarity about who you are and what you are supposed to do. You will hear your divine calling with greater clarity than ever before. Can you embrace the silence? Can you allow yourself to be completely present with your thoughts and soul? Only then will you be able to hear the voice that is constantly with you. The voice of your authentic self, your unique mission, and the guiding hand of God. The most difficult tests aren't generally ones that strain your body. They're the ones that test your soul. These are the exams that peel back the layers of who you think you are, revealing your deepest fears and desires. The third test, the test of letting go, is likely the most challenging for many individuals since it confronts us at our very heart. We cling on to so much in life: grudges, expectations, and disappointments. We carry the weight of previous wounds and disappointments, and it frequently drags us down without our knowledge. To pass this exam, you must be willing to release everything. You must be willing to let go of emotional baggage, attachments to outcomes, people, and things that you have held on to for so long. Letting go does not imply not caring. It's about giving up control. It's about believing that whatever is meant for you will come to you in due course, and that whatever isn't meant for you will naturally fade away. To fully let go is not a sign of weakness. It is a really powerful deed that demands a high level of trust. This exam is particularly challenging since letting go does not occur all at once. It is a process, a continuous act of releasing that requires time and effort. It's not something you can just decide to do and then promptly forget. Every day, you must remind yourself to trust and release, to relinquish your need for control. And just when you think you've perfected the art of letting go, life throws something at you. Something that tries your determination and makes you desire to hold on to what you have. When you sense yourself clutching on, ask yourself the most difficult question. Am I willing to let go of even this? This is when the exam becomes real. It is more than just letting go of items in your life that are no longer serving you. It is about letting go of your expectations for how things should proceed. Describe how you want things to turn out. The fact is that we frequently hang on to people, events, and results because we are terrified of them. We seek control over our situations. However, genuine freedom comes when we relinquish control and believe that God's plan is superior than our own. The Bible provides compelling illustrations of letting go. The narrative of Abraham is one of the most significant instances. God summoned him to abandon all he knew, including his farm, family, and security, and travel to a location he had never been. In Genesis 12, verse 1, God tells Abraham to leave his nation, people, and father's family for the land. I'll show you. Abraham had to let go of everything, including his history, comfort, and plans. It was a demonstration of tremendous confidence and trust in God's promise. He didn't know what would happen, but he obeyed. And in doing so, he stepped into the blessing God had arranged for him. Similarly, in our own lives, we are frequently asked to let go of things, relationships, and even goals that we cherish. However, by surrendering, we allow God to act in ways we never anticipated. When you let go of your attachment to results, you create space for the divine plan to emerge in your life. The actual question is, how much are you prepared to give up in order to be free? Letting go is a process that needs ongoing faith and surrender, particularly in the face of uncertainty. Every time you let go of something, you make place for something larger. You are free to move into the future God has planned for you without being burdened by the past. Can you let go of the things that are holding you back, even if it seems impossible? Are you prepared to let go of your connection to outcomes and accept that God knows best for you? The chosen ones are those who can say yes to these questions. They recognize that letting go is a show of strength and trust, not weakness. The release is when we find freedom, tranquility, and the divine purpose that has always been waiting for us. If you've passed the first 3 exams, you've already started to evolve. However, the path does not get much simpler from here. In fact, it just becomes more intense. The 4th test has shattered even the strongest spirits. It's regarded as the dark night of the soul. This is the exam that will make you question everything you thought you understood and believe in. It's as if the universe is asking you how much darkness you can take before losing your light during the dark night of the soul. You are thrown into a state of extreme anguish. It feels like the world is collapsing around you. Relationships dissolve. Career routes appear to evaporate in thin air. Your sense of purpose dissolves, leaving you with just doubts. Why is this happening to me? What have I done to deserve this? And most frighteningly, will I ever get out of this darkness? In this time, it's easy to believe that you're being punished or challenged beyond your limits. But here's a secret. The dark night of the soul is not retribution. It is a cleansing. It's an essential step in your spiritual development. A step in the process of becoming the person you were created to be. The darkness is not meant to ruin you. It's there to remove everything that isn't authentically you. In these darkest moments, your true light is frequently shown, but only if you are willing to persevere. When confronted with this challenge, many people become discouraged. They lose themselves in the darkness, abandon their faith, and lose hope. But the chosen ones, those called to a higher cause, do not give up. They know that the darkness is just fleeting, that it is only a stage in their path. They understand this even when the route ahead appears murky. Even when they can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, they must keep going ahead. Consider how many times in the Bible individuals experienced tremendous darkness. Moses journeyed through the desert for 40 years before leading his people to freedom. Even Jesus, during his stay in the Garden of Gethsemane, experienced intense suffering and uncertainty. Praying my soul is overcome with grief to the point of death. Matthew 2638. However, Jesus did not give in to despair. He believed in God's plan even if he couldn't see the finish. Similarly, during your personal dark night of the soul, you may feel lost, alienated, and overwhelmed. You may doubt your current route. Remember, however, that this experience is not intended to break you. It is here to improve you. Every struggle, heartache, and moment of pain is part of God's larger plan to shape you into the person you were always intended to be. The chosen ones are those who face the darkness with faith, believing that the light will emerge even if they cannot see it now. The key is trust. Even when everything appears to be falling apart, the chosen ones remain certain that God has not abandoned them. They understand that God works in strange ways, and His timing is impeccable. When you feel like you can't move on, remember yourself that the darkness is just fleeting. You will emerge stronger, wiser, and more connected with your divine mission on the other side. Are you willing to take this exam without giving up hope? Will you believe that darkness will ultimately give way to light? Despite their most difficult tribulations, the chosen ones never give up. They believe that God's purpose is greater than whatever challenge they encounter. This is the test that will sharpen your faith, fortify your determination, and bring you closer to the destiny you were born to accomplish. Keep pushing forward even when you can't see where you're going, and believe that God is guiding you through this dark night to the light that awaits. But let me ask you something. How do you react when everything crumbles and life slips through your fingers? Do you experience panic? Do you urgently cling to the parts of your life, holding them together with everything you have? Do you let them fall, trusting that what is intended to stay will remain, and what has to go will go? This leads us to the sixth test, a test of faith. I'm not talking about faith in the typical religious sense, but rather trust in oneself. Faith in both the universe and life itself. When you are in the dark night of the soul, you will encounter times that will challenge your faith in what is going on around you. You must believe that the darkness will not last forever and that a higher design is emerging. Even if you can't see it, this is one of the most difficult tests since it asks you to believe in something you can't see or verify. It begs you to believe in the invisible. Trust that everything happens for a purpose, even if the cause is not evident to you yet. Faith isn't blind. It is not about avoiding the suffering or pretending everything is okay. When you're shattered within, faith is about accepting the suffering, completely experiencing it, and still choosing to believe that there's a reason for it. Faith is faith that the universe is working for your benefit rather than against you, even when everything seems to be breaking apart at the seams. Here's the thing. When you're in the dark night of the soul, your faith will be challenged repeatedly. You will have moments when the world feels too heavy to bear. You will be tempted to give up, to lose hope, and to think that the darkness you are traveling through is the only reality. But it is precisely in these moments that the chosen ones soar above. They persevere. They maintain their faith even when there appears to be nothing else to hang on to. They continue to move ahead, even if each step feels like it takes them further into the... Consider how Jesus handled this test in the Garden of Gethsemane. In Matthew 26, verse 39, he asked, "My Father, if possible, may this cup be taken from me yet, not as I will, but as you will." Jesus was in profound sorrow, facing an inconceivable hardship, but his confidence in God's plan remained unwavering. He believed that even in the most difficult of situations, God's will would prevail. And with that trust, he proceeded onward, achieving his task. Despite the darkness, you, like Jesus, must have confidence in the unseen. When the route ahead seems dark and unknown, and it appears that the world is collapsing, you must believe that everything happens for a reason. You must trust that everything you are going through is part of a broader divine plan, which you may not completely comprehend right now, but will show itself over time. So let me ask you, how strong is your faith? Can you keep it together while everything else around you falls apart? Can you believe in the unseen, even when the route ahead appears unclear? The chosen ones are not those who never fail, but those who choose to believe even when everything appears to be falling apart. They believe that even in the midst of darkness, light awaits them. Faith is the power that will see you through the darkest times. It is the anchor that keeps you grounded while everything else is chaotic. When you have faith, you are not simply traveling through the storm. You are journeying with the understanding that it will take you to something higher. Continue ahead even when you can't see the route. Trust that God, the cosmos, and the divine plan will guide you through this. The chosen one endures because they believe the light will return, even if it seems distant. Now, and when it does, you will emerge stronger, wiser, and more in tune with your actual purpose. When you've spent enough time in the dark, wrestling with the questions, doubts, and anxieties, you reach a precipice. This is where the sixth test starts, the test of surrender. If you've gotten this far, you've already demonstrated that you're strong, resilient, and capable of suffering extreme pain and uncertainty. However, this exam is not about strength. It's about relinquishing control. It is about yielding to the flow of life, to forces far stronger than your own volition. And this, in many ways, is the most difficult test of all. We humans like to be in charge. We plan, we arrange, we strategize. We strive to shape our lives, futures, and relationships based on our wishes and expectations. Unfortunately, life does not always go as planned. In fact, most of the time, it leads us down unexpected paths. Sometimes terrible, sometimes delightful, often mysterious. The chosen ones realize that control is an illusion. They comprehend that there is more intellect at work, a power that understands far more than the limiting human intellect ever could. And they are willing to submit to that force in order to let go of their need to control the outcome. But here's the important bit. Surrender does not imply giving up. This does not imply you should stop caring or striving. It indicates you have stopped resisting. It implies you stop resisting the river of life and instead allow yourself to be carried by it. Imagine you were swimming in a river. If you tried to swim upstream against the tide, you would exhaust yourself and reach nowhere. However, if you succumb to the river's flow, you will be easily transported to your destination. This is what surrendering to life feels like. This exam will urge you to let go of more than simply your plans. You may be asked to give rid of your identity, ego, and the whole concept of who you believe you are. You may be urged to give up your aspirations, attachments, and dreams. This type of surrender doesn't happen quickly. It is a process, one that demands confidence. Trust in life. Believe in yourself. Trust the larger plan that is unfolding, even if you can't see it. The Bible provides a striking example of submission in Abraham's life. In Genesis 22, God asks Abraham to sacrifice his beloved son, Isaac. It was a request that called into question Abraham's whole understanding of his life, purpose, and connection with God. Nonetheless, Abraham unquestioningly accepted God's will. In verse 12, God speaks, "Do not put your hand on the boy. Now I know you fear God, because you did not withhold your own son, Abraham, from me." His decision to let go of what he loved most revealed an enormous confidence in God's bigger purpose. This moment of surrender was not about loss. It was about confidence and trust in the divine plan that is beyond human comprehension. Similarly, you may be asked to let go of items you've been holding very closely. It might be your sense of control, your need to know the outcome, or even your devotion to certain objectives. Surrendering does not imply giving up on your aspirations or life. It entails believing that life's plan for you is superior to any plan you might have devised yourself. Consider this. How much of your life do you spend attempting to control events? How frequently do you oppose the way things are, wishing things were different? We frequently struggle against life, events, people, and even ourselves. What happens if you quit resisting? What if you let go of the urge to control every outcome and simply trusted that whatever occurs would be precisely as it should be? The chosen one tells those who realize that resistance simply leads to further agony. They realize that surrender does not imply weakness. It is about strength. It takes tremendous bravery to trust, let go, and allow life to unfold in its own time. Surrendering is a powerful act of trust that frees you from the weight of control and allows you to receive heavenly instruction. Can you let go of the impulse to control everything? Are you prepared to believe in the flow of life, even when it seems unclear? Surrender is the key to achieving peace and liberation. And it is in this moment of letting go that you create space for something bigger to emerge. The chosen ones embrace surrender because they understand that it is through surrender that they may align with their real purpose and find serenity in the path, trusting that life is leading them exactly where they need to go. The test of surrender does not include weakness. It's all about strength. Strength to let go. It's about bravery. The bravery to trust. Most individuals will fail this test because surrender feels like losing. It feels like giving up. But the chosen one should understand that submission is not the end. It is the beginning. It's the moment you finally enter the flow of life, when you stop striving and let life guide you. Surrendering to life does not imply that you give up your power. On the contrary, it signifies that you are aligned with a power far bigger than yourself. It implies you can tap into the universe's unlimited intellect, which knows precisely what you need and when you need it. However, in order to access that power, you must first let go of the illusion of control. In the Bible, this is vividly represented in Jesus' life, notably in his prayer before his arrest in Luke 22:42. He prays, "Father, if you are willing, take this cup from me, not my will, but yours. Be done." Jesus, in this moment of great uncertainty and dread, he surrenders his will to God. He did not surrender his power. He connected with God's greater plan, recognizing that submitting to divine will was essential to completing his destiny. Jesus realized that ultimate strength came from relinquishing control and believing in God's plan, even if it contradicted his human knowledge. The chosen ones are aware of this fact. They recognize that surrender, rather than control, is the route to ultimate power. Surrender does not imply being meek or weak. It is about connecting with a larger power, one that understands a route even when you do not. It's about believing that life is unfolding flawlessly, even in the most difficult situations, and that you're precisely where you're supposed to be. Allow me to ask you something. Can you give up? Can you let go of the need to control every element of your life? Can you believe that life understands what it's doing even if you don't? This is the test that distinguishes the chosen one from the others. It's the exam that forces you to let go of the steering wheel and let life guide you where you need to go. Consider the metaphor of driving. You're in the automobile, gripping the steering wheel hard as you navigate life's twists and turns. However, you eventually discover that you do not know all of the answers. The route is twisting, and you can't anticipate every bump or detour ahead. Surrendering is like letting go of the wheel and believing that the trip, albeit uncertain, will take you precisely where you're supposed to be. It is not about abandoning control entirely. It is about trusting that you are being guided by a higher force, a power that understands the larger picture, when all you can see is the road ahead. So, the fundamental question is, can you believe that life understands what it's doing? Can you let go of the impulse to control everything and believe that everything is going as it should? Surrendering is not a passive act. It takes a conscious decision to trust to go into the flow of life with faith and to allow life to lead you to your ultimate purpose. This is the test that the chosen ones must pass in order to reach their full strength and freedom. Surrendering does not mean losing yourself. You discover your genuine self. You connect to a power bigger than yourself and link with the universe's limitless wisdom. which is constantly working in your advantage. The instant you let go, you enter a higher, more deep realm of existence. You stop fighting the river of life and start allowing it to take you precisely where you're supposed to be. Are you ready to give up? Are you prepared to believe that life, with all of its complexities, will get you where you need to go? The Chosen One completely embraces this challenge, discovering power and freedom beyond their wildest imaginations. The option is yours. Will you let go and allow life to guide you? And here's the conundrum. When you yield and let go of the impulse to control, you get more control. However, it is not the type of control you might expect. It is not within Manipur's control to eat out or force things to your liking. It is the control that comes from being in tune with life and in sync with the flow of the cosmos. When you are in that condition of surrender, everything flows naturally and you find yourself precisely where you need to be, exactly when you should be there. This may sound counterintuitive. How might letting go help you have greater control? It's because actual control does not include carefully controlling every element of your life. It's about trusting that the cosmos is directing you toward the best possible ending, and that a Chosen One understands this. They understand that when they yield, they do not give up control. They are uniting with a power far larger than themselves. And in that connection, things fall into place in ways they never could have imagined. The battle to control everything subsides, and they walk on with ease, confident that they are being steered in the proper way. But that type of surrender necessitates confidence. It demands trust. It asks you to enter into the mystery of life without knowing all of the solutions. Can you do that? Can you venture into the unknown and believe that you will be guided and supported, even when you can't see the way ahead? This is the real test of surrender. The test that requires you to let go of your need to know the outcome in times of uncertainty. It's natural to want to exert control, demand answers, and try to compel events to unfold according to your wishes. But the Chosen Ones have discovered that this is not the route to serenity. The path to peace, divine direction, and ultimate satisfaction is surrender, believing that even in the lack of explanations, the universe is unfolding properly. This is the test of submission, and it is one of the final tests that the Chosen Ones must pass. Only those who can fully let go and succumb to the flow of life will pass this test, and those that do will discover that life has far more in store for them than they could have dreamed. Consider the account of Abraham, who was promised a son in his old age, yet was requested by God to sacrifice that son Isaac in Genesis 22. God, take your son, Isaac, your only son whom you love, travel to Moriah and sacrifice him as a burned offering on a mountain. I'll show you. Abraham's surrender in this time was not about mindless obedience. It was about believing that God's purpose was far larger than what he could comprehend. He gave up control of the issue and entered into God's flawless plan for his life. Similarly, you must give up the desire to control the course of your life. The Chosen Ones believe that even when the route is uncertain, they are being guided exactly where they need to go via submission. They learn that life is considerably more bountiful than they could ever have imagined. They were surprised by the spectacular princes, possibilities, and benefits that awaited them. Are you prepared to go into them? Can you let go of the urge for control and trust that life will lead you to where you need to be? This is a test of submission, the exam that distinguishes the Chosen One from the others. Those who yield to life's flow will discover that their journey is filled with effortless direction, tranquility, and change. Through resignation, you will know that all you have gone through has led you to this point of divine harmony. Will you let go and trust your Chosen One? Those who accept the wonder of life understand that surrender is not defeat, but rather the path to living the life they were always destined to live. The solution is yours to discover. If you've made it this far, if you've passed the surrender exam, you're already one of the few who have faced the most difficult challenges. But there is one more test left, and it is the most deep of them. It is a test of waking when you finally grasp your mission, when you realize the ultimate truth that has been guiding you all along. The ultimate challenge is not one of endurance, but of realization. It is not about what you can accomplish, but rather what you can see. This is the moment when the curtain is removed, the fog of misunderstanding clears, and you can see the world and yourself for what they actually are. When you awaken to your divine mission, you understand why you've gone through all of the difficulties, the suffering, the darkness, and the uncertainty. Everything suddenly makes sense, and you realize that every step of your path has led you to this awakening. The chosen ones are not chosen because they are naturally exceptional or superior to others. They were picked because they took the decision to awaken. They have decided to see the truth, even when it is difficult and contradicts everything they have previously thought about themselves and the world around them. This is the reality people come to realize. You are not separated from life. You are not a victim of circumstance. You are life itself, expressing itself in a distinct way, through a unique adventure. This last exam asks you to see that all of the hardships and tests have been meant to get you closer to this reality. They were not arbitrary, nor were they punishments. They were deliberately planned experiences designed to remove the illusions, false identities, and egoic goals that we cling to in the expectation of finding purpose outside of ourselves and succeeding. These challenges have allowed you to recognize the underlying reality. You're here for a reason. You are here not by chance, but because life, in its infinite wisdom, chose to experience itself through you. Your mission is not something you should look for in the future. It is something you already experience on a daily basis. It is discovered in the simple act of expressing who you truly are. The instant you realize this fact, everything changes. You no longer feel compelled to manage your circumstances because you see that life is already unfolding flawlessly. It works just the way it should. You recognize that all you've gone through, both the suffering and the successes, is part of a larger plan, one that you may not completely comprehend, but that is unfolding with divine accuracy. Consider the account of Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, facing the pain of the cross, as told in Matthew 26:39. He pleaded, "My Father, if possible, may this cup be removed from me, yet not as I will, but as you will." In his darkest hour, Jesus realized that his suffering had purpose. It was part of a larger divine design than himself. His goal was not just to survive, but also to fulfill God's will, even if the cost seemed insurmountable. Similarly, in Genesis 50:20, Joseph, who had been betrayed by his brothers, imprisoned, and subjected to several trials, was able to perceive the broader picture. He told his brothers, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." Joseph's enlightenment occurred when he realized that all he had gone through, the agony, rejection, and suffering, was part of God's larger plan to save countless people. His struggles had brought him to his ultimate purpose, and in that moment of waking, he realized God had been at work all along. This last test requires you to recognize this reality. You are not distinct from the cosmos, but an essential component of it. And when you realize this fact, everything changes. You no longer feel the need to exert control because you realize that life is already going flawlessly. You no longer feel the need to seek your purpose because you understand that your mission is simply to experience and express life in whichever way seems most authentic to you. As Paul remarked in Philippians 1:21, "For me, to live is Christ, and to die is gain." The chosen ones have realized that their life's purpose is to live it fully surrendered and trusting in God's plan, rather than pursuing it. The instant you awaken, you realize that your existence is a part of something bigger, an expression of divine destiny that unfolds every day. Can you wake up to this truth? Can you see how you are not separate from the cosmos, but rather an intrinsic part of it? Divinely placed, divinely led. When you do, everything changes. Your connection with the world, people, and yourself will never be the same again. You will walk in the light of your mission, certain that life is leading you exactly where you need to go. This is the ultimate test, and it is not about what you do, but about what you see when you eventually discover the truth. You'll discover you've always been right where you needed to be. But this awareness does not mark the end of the trip. It is the start of a new one. Once you have passed this final test, you are no longer limited by the restrictions of the intellect, the ego, or the anxieties that formerly kept you hostage. You're free. Free to live your life with purpose, meaning, and joy. Free to create, to love, to explore the planet, without the weight of dread and uncertainty. This is the gift of the final exam. This is the reward for weathering the most difficult challenges, which only the chosen ones experience. The moment of waking alters everything. The shackles of the past, your doubts, anxieties, and false identities that you formerly held to, slip away. You no longer live in terror of what could happen because you know that everything is going precisely as it should. You are no longer a captive of the outside world or the views of others. You are free to live genuinely and express your actual self without the masks or pretensions on which you previously relied. Consider the Apostle Paul, who had his own great awakening following his dramatic conversion on the road to Damascus. Paul's life was no longer defined by his past. In Galatians 2:20, he transitioned from persecuting Christians to being one of Christ's most powerful defenders. Paul writes, "I have been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me." This was his actual awakening, when he recognized that his mission was no longer about his personal wants or agenda, but about carrying out the divine purpose assigned to him. He was free of the chains of his previous identity, able to heed God's call without hesitation. And now, after suffering the trials of surrender, faith, darkness, and realization, U2 invites you to awaken to your actual nature and destiny. This freedom is more than simply an intellectual idea. It is a live, breathing reality that you may encounter every day. You'll be able to create with purpose, love authentically, and navigate the world with joy and grace, knowing that you are in line with your divine purpose. But here's the key question. Are you prepared to awaken? Are you ready to let go of the worries and limits that have been holding you back? Are you ready to see the truth about who you are and why you're here? Not as a transient concept, but as the basis for your entire existence. The chosen ones are those who affirm this fact. They are the ones who are willing to experience the discomfort of waking, even if it contradicts all they have known. In making that decision, individuals get the freedom to live a life filled with purpose, tranquility, and pleasure. So, I ask you one more. Are you ready to awaken? Are you ready to accept the entire truth of who you are and live out the divine purpose that has always been waiting for you to discover it? This is the final, and in this awakening, you will discover the freedom to live the life you were always destined to live. The trip is not easy. The tests are not simple. But if you can get through the darkness, the uncertainty, and the suffering, you will discover that what awaits you on the other side is more than you could have ever dreamed. This is the route of the chosen ones. It is not a route for the faint-hearted. It is a route for those who are willing to confront the most difficult tests, endure the most profound trials, and emerge from the other side awakened, changed, and free. And the question is, are you one of the chosen ones? Are you prepared to take this route, no matter how difficult? knowing that it leads to something better than you could have wished for. As you start on your trip, I want to take a minute to thank each and every one of you, whether you gave through super thanks or just watched and interacted with this message. Your being here is a blessing. If this message spoke to you, I ask you to consider supporting this channel through Super. Thanks. Every gift allows us to continue sharing great, revolutionary information. Even if you haven't given, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here and participating in this adventure. If you found this video useful, please like, subscribe, and share it with others who may benefit from this message. Don't forget to leave a remark below. Please let us know how these words have affected you and what your opinions are on this journey of waking. May you be endowed with the strength to face any challenge that comes your way. May you walk in the light of your real mission. And may you always know that you are not alone. You are divinely directed, and your trip is proceeding just as it should. Continue to go forward, certain that what is ahead will exceed your greatest expectations. Blessings to all. Thank you for being here. And may your road be filled with light, love, and never-ending transformation.